Welcome back to another episode of Merge Extra. Today, I'm honored to say that we're joined by Mr. Friedrich Klütch. He is the brilliant director of the 3-part documentary series called A House of Wonders. It's a documentary about Omani Presence in East Africa. So first, I'd like to welcome you to the show. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Liana. It's a pleasure to be here. And I must admit that 104.8 is my favorite radio station whenever I visit Muscat. So I've heard your voice on the radio before, and I'm happy to be here to talk to you live.
Thank you so much for saying that. We're always happy to meet an actual listener. Before we get into the documentary itself, I'd like to hear from you a bit about your background.
I'm an old white man for all of those who are just listening on the radio. And I was born end of the 50s, so I'm this old. And I wanted to become, in my time, television was the big thing, like internet and social media is today. If you just imagine what it meant for the people in the 60s, this, what you experience as social media and internet today, it was television for us. Okay. Radio had been there before, cinema had been there before, but television was the new big thing. And as a young boy, I was completely fascinated by television. I wanted to do television. I saw what it meant for the people, how it brought people together. At the time, everybody was watching the same shows, and the next day you would be talking about, the events on television of last night. So this was something that really was very cohesive to society, and I felt this is a wonderful profession to learn, and that's what I did. Once I finished school and the military service, at the time I applied at a film school. There were 2 in Germany at the time, in Munich and Berlin, and I made it to the Munich one and studied film, and have been a film producer ever since. So I think this was my destiny. Okay.
And when I looked into your background, I saw that you mostly do documentaries on historical films. Why the interest in historical documentaries?
I don't know actually where it comes from, but even in school, that's when everybody, every one of us has learns the first thing about history and how things developed. It still has a immense fascination. And whenever I go to a place like Kalhat, for instance, you just have ruins of a town that was destroyed in the 16th century, but I feel connected to these places. I feel connected to the people that lived there, and I can feel what they were looking for, what they hoped for in life, and I can, it's something that continues. It's not our privilege alone, being alive on Earth at this moment in time, but and sort of they're leaving a message, and I feel my responsibility is to transmit this sort of message that they left for us, so we can learn, we can enjoy. Yes, it speaks to me. So that's and this is what I want to forward to transmit to my audience. Okay,
now let's get into A House of Wonders. Can you tell me about this project?
I in 2012 I started to do my first documentary series for an Omani client. This was the Geotech at the time, and we endeavored to do something on the big moments of Omani history. So we did something on the China trade in the 1st, 2nd century Hijri. We did something on the Portuguese coming here, the first appearance of European colonial powers in this area. And we did something on an episode on the Sultanate of Zanzibar. So this brought me to Oman and Omani history for the first time. And this project premiered in 2017. Actually, it took some time to produce, and it was very successful at the time. I mean, it's already a long time ago, and that's probably what made way for me to produce A House of Wonders. There was a competition, a pitch, a tender in the years 2017 and 18, and from the Ministry of Information. And I was one of the many production companies from all over the world that submitted their ideas. And as the title says, it was supposed to be about Omani presence in East Africa, and we were free to suggest whatever we thought was important and interesting to a global audience, and as well as to an Omani audience. And my pitch was accepted. So that's how I got to do this wonderful project. And the net production time was 3 years, as I told you before. There are many development processes and reviewing processes and stuff like this, post-production. But yes, now we are finished, and we're very happy to present the final episodes to the Omani public.
Okay, so it was a 3-part documentary that was released in the Royal Opera House?
Very true, yes.
Okay.
Last Sunday, February 18th, we had the pleasure of, I think we were the first film crew to have the privilege of presenting our films in the
Royal Opera House.
Well, it was not actually the big hall, but they have a second hall, the second biggest.
Okay.
It's called the House of Musical Arts. Uh-huh. It has 450 seats and is completely wonderful. The design and is just like the Royal Opera House. It's just a little bit smaller, and it doesn't have a stage that is that big, and it doesn't have the room for the orchestra. So it's made for stage shows and for cinema. But ours was the first one to be shown.
So I'm sure it was impressive to see it in a place like that.
We are totally proud, and I mean it was. Oman TV was doing a live coverage, and there were a lot of ministers, ambassadors from East Africa, for instance, the German ambassador, so many ministers, a lot of excellencies. So we were very, very proud of the feedback that we got.
Okay, and this work had Arabic, English, and Swahili subtitles.
Well, actually, we produced 3 language versions of all of it.
Okay, the language was actually different in...
Yes, we have an Arabic version. That's the one that was shown, including English subtitles to make it understandable for the international audience. But there are also pure Swahili versions, because we want to reach out to the people of East Africa with this project as well. This is not just aimed at an Omani public, but also to the people in East Africa. And the ambassador of Tanzania, for instance, we spoke after the show, and she was very, very delighted to have seen it. She found it very interesting and enlightening. And then, of course, we have an English version for the international audience.
Okay. And so obviously taking on a project like this, you yourself would have learned a lot about Omani history. Is there anything that either shocked you or that you found particularly interesting throughout this project?
Shocking. I mean, it's very impressive to see how big an empire Omanis had at the time of the Sultanate of Zanzibar. I mean, this was the center of power. You had 2 parts of Oman, basically. You had one in the north, which is Oman today, and then you had the coastal strip in the south, all the way from Lamu to Mozambique, and with a lot of trade stations and cities and villages and settlements in the interior of Africa. All the way up to the Congo, across the big lakes. So this was a huge empire, and you Omanis, I mean, you might not be able to realize it, but you have been the big traders of the Indian Ocean, and Yeah, you made it all possible. I mean, what the Chinese are doing now, that's what you have done before.
In the past.
In the past, yes, with sailing ships. I mean, you have a privileged situation right here. The monsoon is just going by the Gulf of Oman, and you just have to take your sailing boat out 1 or 2 sea miles, and then you are in the monsoon winds. And in the wintertime, you can go south. And in summertime, you come back. So, and of course, with the Kharif and Salala, that's the summer monsoon. So you might have heard about the story of Sinbad, and you are the sons and daughters of Sinbad. But many of you don't know, so we need to tell you.
Tell us and tell the rest of the world. I mean, your documentary, the production of it in different languages, I think has not only made it possible for us Omanis to learn our own history, I think you've allowed it to become widespread. Yani English audiences, for example, Swahili audiences that might not speak. I thought that was particularly interesting to me. So I read that there was so much that you could not compact it into this 3-part documentary, that you also had to put it in a book. Can you tell me about that?
Well, of course, when you do films, they are 55 minutes each, three episodes. You're limited. You have to make choices. You have to decide on which time to cover in Omani history, which heroes, protagonists you're going to choose to center your stories on, and all kinds of choices. And these people that we chose eventually, they had big lives, and many things happened in their lifetime. So you simply cannot fit everything into 3 times 55 minutes. And that's for the overspill, basically we had this book, and it does follow the choices we made for the film. They are the same choices for the book. But everything we could not fit into the films, we put into the book, and so it doesn't get lost. Once you do the research, I mean, you don't want it to get lost again and go back into the archives where maybe in 20 years some scholar will find them again. But you want to, make it visible, and that's what we have the book for. Okay,
so you worked with Omanis in this project. Can you tell me about that experience for you?
Well, Omanis are at the center. I mean, what they wanted, they wanted an outside view.
Okay. So this was on purpose, that they wanted an outsider to come in.
Yes, to do a sort of an audit, an appraisal of this relationship between Omanis and Oman and the countries and people of East Africa. They wanted somebody objective, non-biased from the outside, to do an appraisal of what it was all about, the good sides, maybe some things that people have never heard about, and to collect all of this information and present it to an international public. I think this was a very good decision, because these films are supposed to be seen in East Africa as well, and there are many topics that are discussed and still not generally agreed on. So I think it was a very, very wise decision to have someone from the outside to do this appraisal. What we did is, of course, find the experts in each field of language, religion, nutrition, clothing, all these, what we call shared heritage between Oman and East Africa: technology, shipbuilding, coral stone building. There are so many things that you will discover when you see the films or read the book. This sharing of knowledge and culture and humanistic values, it's so broad. There are so many fields that there's really a lot to discover, and this will not fit into 3 times 55 minutes.
That makes sense. So I would assume that with a project like this, there will definitely be some sensitivities. How did you navigate that as a director in terms of telling the actual story while still maintaining that level of respect to all parties involved in terms of sensitivity?
Well, that's where, your previous question, that's where the Omanis came in. We did have some guidance because we had a project committee with very excellent scholars to help us from the Sultan Qaboos University, from the Ministry of Information, filmmakers who have traveled to East Africa many times before. And they helped us navigate through these sensitivities. There are topics that are still disputed and discussed, and but still we should talk about them and try at least to listen to each other. And not to, we don't want to offend, but we still think that things need to be talked about. I mean, very shuye, pole, but I think it is about time to have a objective view, and here Omani scholars helped us a lot, and we, of course, we had Omani talents. You didn't have the chance to see the films yet, but our way of doing it is that we combine documentary with reenactments. So we have some dramatic elements. So we have acting. There's even some fighting in these films. So all you young ones out there, yes, it's
for you.
It's not just going to be old men talking. There are even women playing a big part in this show. So this is for you girls too. And don't say this is just male history. It's not. And we had a lot of Omani talent. I mean, we had Ahmed Al-Kalbani doing Said bin Sultan, Amina Al-Rasul playing Bibi Musa, Isa Al-Napani, Ismail Al-Shukaili. So Hilal Al-Hilali. Basically, we had some of the biggest Omani actors
taking part in this.
Taking part in this. So Omanis not only initiated this project, but they are a major part in it, also in the artistic expertise that we needed to make a successful story out of it.
Okay, I'll ask a bit more of a personal question related to your perspective as a director. So you've done, or I think the majority of your career has been historical documentaries. Do you get nervous that someone may take it the wrong way, or there may be sensitivities, like you as a director? Does that faze you at all?
Well, I've done this for quite some time, and I'm having these discussions a lot of times.
Okay.
And of course, people have different views. It's always a question of how do you deal with that? And so you should never do this in an offensive way, and we need to listen to each other. Otherwise, the misunderstandings will simply go on. And that's what these films and the book basically are for. Just to give foundation, a basis for discussions. And people sometimes they don't even have the right information, and they gather them somewhere, but not from reality, not from the archives like we did, not from the scholars that invested a lifetime in finding the right answers. So, I got I think it depends on how you deal with those sensitive issues. It's sometimes you need to pack them away for a later time, because it's not the right time to pick them up.
Okay.
But for most of them, especially in the relation between Oman and East Africa, I think the time has come
for such a topic to be discussed openly.
I think so.
Okay, that makes sense. would you be interested in taking any further projects in Oman?
Of course I would. I now that I know this much about the rich and beautiful history of Oman, it would be a pity to let go of it.
Okay.
But of course, we are also passing it on, and we are inviting filmmakers. We had colleagues from Oman Television that took part in the filming process. So we're trying to transfer the special knowledge that we have developed in decades of filmmaking. We try to transfer it to Omani talent, and I hope someday, some very near day, Omani talent will continue to do what we have started to do.
Okay. Another question. Okay, now this I'm just curious about. As a German man in Oman, are there any similarities that you may have found between your people and the Omani people after delving yourself into the society for quite some time?
Yes, there are some. We Germans in Europe or in the Western world, we have a reputation of being very correct, a little bit, keeping the distance.
Okay, that's so not Oman.
and respecting each other's privacy and family, and so there might be some similarities, yes, but there might be another one. It's once you get to know an Omani, there's a big friendship. I mean, every Omani is very, very polite and friendly, and it's wonderful to travel this country even for the first time. People that come here for the first time, they're completely fascinated regarding the people and the way they are treated as guests. And but of course, it takes some time to get closer and to get personal and befriend yourself. But when it does, that's a big friendship.
Okay. Where can we watch? So it's been launched at the Royal Opera House, but where will it be aired for the general audience to see?
So actually today, this is February 20th, Tuesday, we are screening the film at Vox Cinemas in Nizwa. And on Thursday, we are screening an episode in Salalah.
Okay.
At the Cinepolis. And on Saturday, we are screening again here at the Vox Cinema Mall of Oman in Boshar. So
all 3 episodes?
No, it will be 1 episode each because it's 1 hour each, so 3 might be a little bit much for one evening. And these shows will start at 7:30 p.m. It's free of charge. It's first come, first serve. So if this is broadcast before these days, then of course.
People would know
rush and to get one of those seats, and then of course Oman TV will have it on their program in the very near future. We don't have the exact dates yet, but
it should be soon.
Yes, it should be soon, and it will be available through internet as well. So the Arabic version will be here very soon, and We did show the film on Zanzibar already at the Zanzibar Film Festival in the Swahili version. We're going to Nairobi at the end of March. Oh, yes, and at the Muscat International Film Festival, beginning of March, March 3 through 7th.
Okay, it will be shown there.
It will be shown there too, so watch out for the film festival. If you want to come, you're very welcome, and we'll be there too. And we hope to see you there and hope you enjoy. And
the book, where can people find the book?
Well, the book will have an official launch at the Muscat Book Fair. That is
in February coming soon.
Yes, it's I think starting end of this week, actually. And that's
tomorrow, I think he's saying. Tomorrow?
Oh, tomorrow. Okay. Yes.
Okay. So February 21st is when the book fair is starting.
All right.
Uh-huh.
And the book will be there, and then it will be made available through but it's a big one. It's 4 kg. I mean, it has
4
many.
4 kg book.
So
nice.
It's nothing you can put in your purse or whatever. It's
that's a sit at home, open that book and read.
Right.
Okay.
But it does have a lot of pictures.
That's good. But even the information part would be good. I mean, I think it's good for us to all have this book and read it anyway. I'm actually quite interested in both the book and the movie. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are listening would be interested in both. I think this is an amazing project. And I really do thank you for sitting down and speaking to us. I genuinely enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure many people would enjoy hearing your perspective on working on this project. So thank you very much for sharing. And thank you for being here and taking your time out of your day.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you very much, Liana. It was a pleasure for having me here. It was a pleasure to come here, and I'll be happy to see you all at the screenings.
At the screening, and hopefully soon, maybe in another project, we can have another talk.
I will let you know first, Liana.
Okay, thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.